Early access for The Division 2 begins on March 12th, and there are many complex mechanisms at work within the game concerning damage, weapon talents, and gear. To help get both new and returning agents ready for the upcoming release, I have teamed up with Sean and Sean from the Division Academy and the Division Elites to bring you this series of tutorials and to build theory crafting for The Division 2. What's going on, agents? It's LtBuzzLitebeer, and it feels great to be getting ready for the full release of The Division 2. But before I begin, I would like to again thank my partners, Sean from the Division Academy and Sean from the Division Elites. Links to their social media platforms in the video description below, as without their knowledge of the game, I would not have been able to craft these tutorials. This is the first of 4 scheduled tutorials into the Division 2, call them small roadmaps into better understanding of in-game mechanics, with this first installment diving into damage and damage calculations. Just like in the original Division game, the method for computing damage is not as straightforward as one might think, as just looking at the percentage gains for certain gear set bonuses, weapon talents, and gear bonuses does not always add up to what you might think it should. Now, this is due to the way the different damage buffs have been programmed to be either additive or multiplicative. Knowing which they are can make a huge difference in your damage per round results, and that is what I will explain in today's episode. Let's start off with this graph, as it makes explaining the differences much easier. First, you need to know the base weapon damage of the weapon you are using, which shows in your character screen under weapon damage. Next is weapon type damage, or all weapon damage. Damage to elites is the next category, and remember that this only applies to elite level NPCs. And finally, we come to the headshot damage and critical hit damage category, and these two different weapon damage types actually fall under the same category of damage for our calculations. Now, there are some unknowns in this equation, as we have not had enough time to thoroughly test out the different weapon damage talents or gear talents to decipher if they are multiplicative or additive. But once the live game launches, it shouldn't be that difficult to test and post the results, but more on these later. For now, let's break down the different categories and lump each different type of damage into its appropriate category for calculations. Finding the first portion of this calculation is quite easy, as you just need to look under the character screen and find weapon damage. This is the base weapon damage of the weapon you currently have equipped without any buffs from talents or perks. Next is the weapon type damage and all weapon damage category, and these are found on the gear set bonuses. For example, take a look at the one-piece bonus for the China Light brand set and the extra 8% shotgun damage this unlock awards. This would fall under weapon type damage and into the second column of our graph. Likewise, the 3-piece bonus from the Providence Defense brand set awards 5% all weapon damage, and this would fall into this same category under all weapon damage. Next up is damage to elites, and this can be found on your gear set bonuses, like on the Overlord armaments and Badger Tough brand sets. And finally, we come to the headshot damage and critical hit damage portion of the calculations, and it is best to look for these categories in your character screen, as they take into account every available percentage you have overall on your character, including gear set bonuses, weapon mods, and weapon talents. For the purposes of our calculations, I will throw in some arbitrary numbers into each category and show you just how they all add and multiply out. For our example, let's say that our character has a shotgun equipped that has a base damage of 5,000. Now, I know it's kind of low, but for our example, it will do just fine. Next, let's add in the China Light 8% shotgun damage and 3-piece Providence Defense bonus of 5% all weapon damage. Next, let's say that our character has the hard hitting talent on one of his gear pieces for 15% damage to elites, along with the Badger Tough 1-piece bonus of 7% damage to elites. And finally, let's say that we have equipped weapon mods for a total of 30% headshot damage, and we also have the Wyvern Wear 1-piece bonus unlocked for 7% critical hit damage. Now, I know that these are extremely low percentages, especially if we were talking in-game, but they are only here for the calculations. So let's do the math. 5,000 base damage times 1 plus 0.13, which is how we represent the 8% shotgun damage plus the 5% all weapon damage, times 1 plus 0.22 for the 22% damage to elites, times 1 plus 0.37 for the combined headshot and critical hit damage bonuses. Combined, our character should be hitting for a damage total of 9,443 thanks to all the bonuses. Our shotgun with a base damage of just 5,000 has nearly doubled its damage output thanks to all the weapon damage, weapon type damage, damage to elites, headshot damage, and critical hit damage bonuses. Now, this is the best possible damage our shotgun and mods will be able to combine for if we hit an elite and close enough range that we don't lose any damage to distance drop off, and we hit a headshot and it lands for a critical strike. Where this equation is a bit incomplete is in the extra weapon damage buffs, and that we don't know if they are additive, meaning that they fall into the all weapon damage or weapon type damage category, or if they are separate and are therefore considered multiplicative. For reference, the following weapon talents grant additional weapon damage: Eyeless, Ignited, Sadist, Measured, Unhinged, Close and Personal, Optimist, Pummel, Ranger, and Rifleman. The following gear talents also award some sort of damage buff: Berserk, Gunslinger, On the Ropes, Spotter, and Unstoppable Force. Now, some of these look similar to weapon and gear talents from the original Division game, but at this point I do not want to mistake and publish inaccurate information. Once the weapon talents and gear talents have been properly identified as either additive or multiplicative, you can then add or multiply them to your damage calculation. For example, if we take the same shotgun equation from earlier and we add in, say, Spotter, which grants plus 10% weapon damage to pulsed enemies, and if this works like Pulse from the original game, then this bonus will act in a multiplicative manner. So our final damage number of 9,443 times the 10% bonus damage, which we will show as the decimal 1.1, will equal 10,387 total potential damage output. That's a damage increase of 944 points of damage, or 9.99%, which falls in line with the 10% bonus damage in the weapon damage text for Spotter. Just to show you the difference in additive and multiplicative, let's remove Spotter as multiplicative and add it under the weapon damage, all weapon damage category, and therefore make it as an additive bonus. Doing the math very quickly for you, the total potential damage falls to 10,279 if we move Spotter to additive versus multiplicative. The damage increase has fallen to a gain of just 836 points, or a 8.85% gain for Spotter by changing its damage category. Now, I know that doesn't sound like a lot of difference, but believe me, when we get into much higher base damage weaponry with higher bonuses all stacked up, that 1.15% difference can make a significant difference in your damage output. Well, there it is, agents, in raw form, but you now have an idea as to how damage is computed in the Division 2. As the different weapon talents and gear bonuses are deciphered, I will make edits to this video and make sure to reference the awesome graphs and charts produced and posted by the Division Academy on Twitter and Facebook. As always, I would appreciate you taking the time to rate the video with either a thumbs up or down. If you want some more LtBuzzLitebeer and my continued coverage of the Division 2 in your lives, make sure to pound that sub button and remember to configure and save to receive all notifications from my YouTube channel. Follow me on Twitter, and look for me over on Twitch with weekly streams. Thanks again to the Division Academy and the Division Elites for their awesome guidance and contributions to this series. Check the video description for links to their various platforms. And until my next The Division video, this is LtBuzzLitebeer saying peace out.